Welcome to part 3 of our special series on machine vision in conjunction with Zebra Technologies. Once again, we're with Mr. Allan Anderson of ClearView. Now, we've talked about the different types of machine vision. We've looked at what it can deliver on the factory floor. So really it's a case of what's actually going to bring it over the line, what's going to make it happen. So Allan, do you have examples of a company, or do you have an example of a company that's actually gone through this process and maybe some of the challenges that they faced?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're stood in front of a demo that kind of tells a story of a customer that wanted to deploy machine vision. And look, it has to start with a problem. So, you know, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And in this case, you've got a kind of automotive part manufacturer that are making relatively complex products, and they had quality issues. They were sending out products to their customer that were not meeting the requirements and getting lots of returns. So it has to start with a problem. Then ultimately with that particular case, it's, you know, their knowledge is the issue. So one of the challenges that I can imagine lots of manufacturers face is, great, we have this problem, we want to use machine vision, but then how do we actually get the knowledge to do that? So we worked with them to understand their requirements, to create a user requirement specifications, and then just go through the different steps in terms of proof of concept, so getting samples from them, working through a methodology to create a feasibility study, and then engage to create a solution with them. So here you're seeing something that's doing quite highly complex measurement and inspections. In this case, it's a radiator. And then you're able to basically inspect for good and bad. Right.
Now that looks quite involved and quite a challenge. But you say the approach to this is consultative in the first place. Could you actually take us through the technologies that are actually enabled that to happen?
Absolutely. So this is a complete vision system, but the breakdown of that is it's got lots of different elements, both hardware and software. Every vision system needs a camera. In this case, we've got multiple cameras. This system can be deployed with one camera or tens of cameras if the parts are big enough. And so what you're seeing here is these Zebra CV60 cameras, GigiVision cameras, which is important. They adopt the GigiVision standard that makes it easier to get those images into a software workflow. We're at the center there, you've got the kind of the engine of the system, a vision system called the EV7 from Zebra, effectively an embedded PC. And running on that is Design Assistant, which is Zebra's software that makes it easy to deploy systems like this. And then on here you've got algorithms like metrology inspection, barcode inspection, measurement, that kind of stuff.
Excellent. What are the most common integration challenges and the misconceptions on the factory floor?
Yeah, so again, in this case is interesting because you've got a very, very highly manual set of processes in a manufacturing facility. It's not like in this particular customer case, you've got conveyor belts and robots and stuff like that. A very, very manual process. So there has to be a kind of process change. So in this case, this cell that was created wasn't previously there. And then the workforce need to accept that and work with that and be open-minded, but there has to be a process change. So this has to be able to flow into the manufacturer's manufacturing process. In this case it did. So in this case we have a kind of jig. They bring the part in, they put it in, and they inspect. If it's good, it will pass through a label that goes on there, and then it goes onto the good pile.
Right, understood. So there is a part of that whole integration which is about getting compliance from everybody involved in the process. I understand that. Now, thinking about viewers maybe a little bit undecided about machine vision, maybe a little bit hesitant about the subject, what would you say are the practical first steps for them to take? You know, if they're going to start their machine vision journey, where do they start? Yeah,
so I think it goes back to that earlier point of being really, really clear on what you want to achieve, not just in terms of technically, but in terms of budget and stuff like that. And I think it's engaging with different manufacturers, whether it be through Zebra, but then ultimately people who can help you deploy systems. So in ClearView, we train customers. so they can go and create their own solutions, or we can help create solutions for them to deploy. So I think, you know, if I was looking at this with no experience in machine vision, you've got to go to people that have the expertise to be able to fill those knowledge gaps, and companies like ClearView can help do that.
Yeah, I understand. So that brings me nicely onto the subject. You've opened the Automation Centre of Excellence. Now, how do you use that to support end users, machine builders, system integrators, those that are looking into the subject?
Yeah, so I think, you know, technology isn't the issue now. You know, a few years ago, machine vision technology, there was lots of gaps in that. Sometimes it could be too complex, certain things weren't possible. Technology isn't the barrier here now, it's knowledge. So we try very hard to take the knowledge that we have with our engineering teams and our application engineer and pass those on to customers that don't have that knowledge. So to me, it's training courses, it's creating partnerships where we can create proof of concepts or do tests for customers to show the validation of things. But ultimately what we're doing is we're fulfilling a knowledge gap and ensuring that systems can be deployed effectively without customers having to go through the pain of having to understand everything about machine vision, which can be quite scary at the start.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up perfectly there. Alan, being involved in these 3 videos that we've made together has been really informative. It's clearly shown that there's a practical application, but it's also good to know that there are people with technical skills in this area that can be relied on. So thank you so much for the explanation. Now, if you're watching this and machine vision is something that you want to explore, please check out the link that we're providing below. There is a lot involved. There is an adoption process, and clearly the value is in having people that can help you in that journey. So I would encourage you to talk to Alan, talk to the team at Zebra, and really find out how it will work for you. It's been a really good insight. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you find it useful.